Hello, geographers. Welcome back to another segment. We're going to talk about caverns today and how these are formed. And they're formed by karst topography and within karst landscape. So we're going to explore these fascinating underground caverns and the distinctive surface features that they create. The surface features meaning those that we can see. So what you're seeing on the screen here is the Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico, one of the world's most spectacular cave systems. I personally have never been there, but I would love to go. I will say it seems to be out in the middle of nowhere. But so if you find yourself there, definitely I would think is worth a visit. So how did this massive underground space form? And what causes these beautiful hanging formations? So we're going to answer these in today's lecture. And we'll answer some more questions. And we're going to examine the two-stage process of this cavern formation, the decorative features found in these caverns, also karst topography and its distinctive landforms, and how human activities have affected these geological systems. So, cavern formations. Again, this is a two-step process. Caverns are large, open underground areas that typically form in massive limestone deposits near the Earth's surface. Their formation happens in two distinct stages. Stage one is the initial excavation. In this first stage, slightly acidic groundwater slowly dissolves the limestone bedrock. When rainwater absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and soil, it forms carbonic acid, which is a weak acid but powerful enough to dissolve calcium carbonate in limestone over time. So let's look at the Mammoth Cave in Kentucky. This is the world's largest known cave system with over 400 miles of surveyed passages. This incredible network began forming around 10 million years ago when groundwater began dissolving the limestone layers. The cave's development was particularly influenced by the fluctuating water table of the nearby Green River, which created multiple levels of cave passages as the river gradually cut deeper into the landscape. And I have to say, these cave pictures are challenging to obtain because obviously it is dark inside. Okay, so, all right. So the second stage is what we call the decoration stage. And this is really the fascinating stage. Once a cavity exists, okay, an open area exists, the water table drops below where that cavity is located. We enter what we call the decoration stage. Now, water dripping through the cave ceiling carries dissolved minerals, primarily calcium carbonate. And this little mineral-rich water, as this mineral-rich water encounters the air-filled cave, carbon dioxide escapes, forcing the minerals to precipitate out of the solution. Okay, so come out of the solution. These precipitated deposits collectively are called speleothems. And they create the dramatic formations that we associate with these caverns. So let's look at some of the common types of speleothems. The first one is stalactites, okay? And I remember stalactites because they are hanging from the ceiling, okay? So stalactites hang from the ceiling like icicles. They form as water drips from one spot, depositing a tiny ring of calcite with each drop. Over thousands of years, these rings build downward to create the distinctive pendant structure, icicle structure. Then we have stalagmites, and I think of them as they're mighty and they are growing upward from the floor. When the water drops from the ceiling, when water drops from the ceiling and it hits the floor, they splash and deposit minerals that gradually build upward. So you can remember the difference because stalagmites are mighty. They someday will reach the ceiling. Other speleothems include a flowstone. These are like a sheet deposit on the walls. Cave pearls, and they're formed when water drips onto grains of sand. And helictites, which are twisted formation, and they seem to defy gravity. I don't have any pictures of these to show you. So each one of these, though, requires specific conditions to form, making every cave very unique. Okay. All right, so those are cavern. Next, we're going to talk about karst topography, okay? And this is what we see on the surface, okay? So when we're looking above ground, we can examine karst topography. These are landscapes developed by a consequence of subsurface solution. Karst regions are characterized by a distinctive assembly of landforms. The most common feature is a sinkhole, and really the first feature that we see. Some places call the sinkhole a doline, a rounded depression formed by the dissolution of surface carbonate rocks, okay? Sinkholes typically form at joint intersections where water can more easily penetrate into the limestone. In the karst landscape of Florida, sinkholes range from small depressions just a few yards across to massive features several kilometers in diameter. I mentioned in the last lecture, the Winter Park sinkhole that formed in 1981 is a dramatic example. It swallowed, and this picture on your screen is not of that Winter Park sinkhole, but it is of a recent sinkhole on July 14th, 2017. Okay, but the Winter Park sinkhole swallowed a house, several cars, and parts of the community swimming pool, causing over $2 million in damage. In 1981, that was a lot. So sometimes the roof of a subsurface cavern collapses entirely, okay, causing what we call a collapse doline. A famous example is the Guatemala City's 2010 sinkhole, which formed suddenly after heavy rains, creating a perfect circular hole about 60 feet wide and 300 feet deep. Now, when several sinkholes merge, they form what we call a uvala, a chain of intersecting depressions. We typically do not see these in locations like Florida. I'll get into why. So an uvala, these are more advanced karst topographic landforms. These are also called mogotes, which they form steep haystack hills of residual limestone, excuse me. They form steep haystack hills of residual limestone formed by the solution action around them, okay? And the mogotes are more advanced, okay? So let's talk about how this happens. And this graphic here shows great example, okay? So first we have disappearing streams, okay? Then we start to have sinkholes, and caverns underneath. And as this progressive, these sinkholes get deeper and deeper. And in the advanced stages, we call this tower karst, okay? So we need to address first, and I'll go into further, the surface drainage in these karst areas. So karst landscapes are notable not just for what they contain, but what they lack. So normal surface drainage patterns is what they are lacking. Instead of surface drainage flowing in streams and river, water typically collects in these sinkholes and slowly percolates downward into the ground. Water also completely disappears through what we call swallow holes, okay? These are distinct openings at the bottom of sinkholes that will channel water directly into underground passages. So if you're ever in a landscape and a river or stream just disappears into the ground, this is what is happening and an indication of a swallow hole and future sinkholes. Now, the Lost River in Indiana dramatically demonstrates this phenomenon. The river flows normally before disappearing underground and moves through a series of swallow holes, traveling through cave passages and eventually resurfacing miles away. So you can see why and how underground this water flow will eventually leach out minerals. Okay. Now, while most karst develops in limestone, it can also form in other soluble rocks like dolomite, gypsum, and halite, which is rock salt. In regions with tropical climates and warmer conditions, and we have high rainfall, we sometimes find tower karst. Landscapes with tall, steep-sided hills that have almost vertical walls and are often riddled with caves. The spectacular Karst towers in China and in Ha Long Bay in Vietnam are world famous examples of this dramatic landform. So I recently visited some karst formations in the Phi Phi Islands of Thailand, and these in particular have finger-like channels that smaller boats can venture in from the ocean. Okay, so we were on a one-day boat tour of the Phi Phi Islands, and we went from island to island, and each of the islands has different features. So we did stop here, but the larger boat is not able to enter into these smaller finger-like channels, okay? So we got onto a smaller dinghy that took us deep into the channels, and we got to see these beautiful cliffs. Additionally, the water there is emerald green, and we were able to go swim in this magical area. So it is quite, these towering cliffs are just gorgeous and they're beautiful, and they are containing these caves because the groundwater has percolated. Now, this is a more advanced stage of karst topography than what we might see domestically, such as in Florida, okay? So let's move on. Now, particularly in Florida, human activities significantly affect karst landscapes, particularly through groundwater extraction. So again, in Central Florida, it provides a sobering case study. Most of Central Florida is underlain by limestone bedrock, making it naturally susceptible to sinkholes. However, natural processes have been dramatically accelerated by human activities. First of all, population growth has substantially increased groundwater pumping. So because of population growth, they're having to pump out more groundwater. Secondly, agricultural irrigation has further depleted the aquifers. Third, when we have in Florida periods of below normal rainfall, these have compounded the problem and we have less groundwater. Now, when groundwater is removed, it lowers the water table and thereby removing the buoyant support that helps maintain the cavern roofs. During the 1980s, new sinkholes formed in Florida at an astonishing rate of about one per day. Now, Florida experienced a population boom during the late 1970s and early 80s. So this is a result of that population boom. Now, again, these sinkholes were happening about one per day. Now, while this rate has decreased because population influx has decreased, it still remains a significant hazard in the region. The main difference, though, I do want to point out is between the limestone sinkholes in Florida and the karst regions in places like Southeast Asia are one, Geological time. The Southeast Asia landforms are forming on older land that is simply just more advanced in its stages. The second one is the original uplift of the limestone or dolomite bedrock is at a higher elevation than, say, in Florida. If you've ever been to Florida, you will notice that it is very flat and at a low elevation compared to sea level. Last, Florida has much more development and groundwater extraction, which I just talked about. Okay, so to conclude on this portion, caverns and karst landscapes represent a powerful but often invisible chemical work of water beneath our feet. Understanding these processes help us to appreciate not only the natural beauty of cave formations, but also the potential hazards associated with karst terrain. In our next lecture, we're going to explore hydrothermal activities and the landscapes they create, like at Yellowstone National Park. So thank you for your attention, and I'll see you in the next section.